Welcome back to the Barbecue Lab. I'm David Gafford, and today we're going to teach you our smoked meatloaf recipe. Smoked meatloaf is a staple here in our house. We eat it all the time. And I'll tell you, we didn't make meatloaf that often in the oven, but you put that same type of a meatloaf on the smoker with some barbecue sauce on the outside, a little bit of barbecue rub, and you've got a guaranteed winner. It's become something that we eat all the time. It's always in the rotation of meals at our house. And we want to share with you our recipe for smoked barbecue meatloaf today. All right, so what we have here is we actually have 1.5 pounds of ground beef. Now, this is about your 80-20 fat to protein ratio. So about 1.5 pounds of that. And we go with 0.5 pound of sausage. You'll see a lot of recipes that have ground pork, but we love the extra flavor that actual sausage comes in with. Now, that's just a standard regular sausage, nothing super fancy like maple or sage, just a regular good old sausage. We also have 1/4 cup of celery, 1/4 cup of carrot, 1/4 cup of red bell pepper, and 1/4 cup of onion. Now, all of these are really what we call a petite dice. This is a really small dice, and the goal is to be able to incorporate those in the meatloaf and have that deliciousness throughout, but not get giant chunks of vegetables in each bite. We also have 2 cloves of garlic, and then we have what we are going to get into for our wet mixture. So we're going to take all of these elements and we're going to mix these together. Then once we mix these together, then we're going to add the wet mixture. So what we have here for our wet ingredients is our heavy cream, and we have 2 eggs. We're just going to mix that cream and those eggs together. Then we're going to incorporate that with all of our other ingredients that we've added so far and create a massive paste out of it and put it all together so it's well incorporated. And then once that's together, we're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients. So what we have here is 1/2 cup of panko breadcrumbs, about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to barbecue rub. Now, barbecue rub, we're using about 1 tablespoon, and this is one of the barbecue rubs that we teach you how to make here on our channel. And so if you have a favorite barbecue rub, by all means, go ahead and use that one. But you could also make this barbecue rub yourself using the stuff that we have on our very channel and add that into this recipe. Now, also we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now, we personally like to make sure that we're using fresh, cracked black pepper with each recipe that we use because it has so much more flavor than just what you're going to get out of a jar in the cabinet. So that's up to you, but pepper and salt both in this recipe. Now, once we have the wet ingredients, the dry ingredients, and all of the other things that we've added to this point, we're going to create a massive kind of loaf out of this, but not until we add our final ingredient, which is 1/8 cup of barbecue sauce. Now, I don't know if you have your favorite barbecue sauce that you make at home, but this is one that I think you should try to make. If you look at the links in the description below, you'll find that we actually have a link to the video where we teach you how to make this very barbecue sauce. It's one that we love to go with our barbecue and smoked meatloaf, and I think you're going to love it on so many things. So give that recipe a try. But then we're going to take that, put it in with all of our ingredients, and incorporate it together, and that's when we're going to go ahead and make our loaf. The loaf pan really just serves one purpose, and that's to mold the entire thing together so you actually have a loaf look to the meatloaf. Now, before we put it into the pan, we're going to spray down this pan with cooking spray, but not to put the meatloaf in directly. We want to take some plastic wrap and put it down into the pan so we can get this meatloaf out really, really easy. Because if not for the plastic wrap on the bottom of this pan, getting a loaf out and having it stay a loaf is going to be really, really difficult. But what's lovely is if you put this plastic wrap in first, when it comes time to take the meatloaf out, it slides out really, really easy, and you can put it right onto the rack that we're going to cook it on. All right, we've had this meatloaf in the fridge for at least 2 hours. And the great thing about this is you can let it sit in the fridge for even overnight if you'd like. It's gonna come together, it's gonna fit this mold really, really well, and it's gonna be just the perfect shape for us to be able to get out of the smoker. Now, we talked about using this plastic wrap on it to be able to get it out of the pan really easily. And so let me show you how we're gonna do that. The idea is we just wanna lift it out because there's plastic wrap all around the outside of the meatloaf. If we just grab the sides, and we try to wiggle here a little bit, you can see it's going to start breaking it apart from the pan. And once it's coming apart from the pan, we just have to lift it out, just like that. And that is how you get a meatloaf out of a pan without it breaking apart, okay? Now the whole thing is we want to get this onto this rack that we're going to use this on in the grill, and we've just wrapped a little pork rack here with aluminum foil to make sure that we don't have the meatloaf dropping through the rack and dropping through the grates. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to free this from the plastic wrap, flip it over, and we're going to have it ready to put on the smoker. Now that we have the meatloaf out of the pan and we've actually turned it here onto the rack we're going to cook it on, there's just one last step we want to take before we get it out on the smoker, and that is to put some barbecue rub on the outside of the meatloaf. Now, you've seen this from quite a few pitmasters on the web. They'll use some kind of a barbecue rub, and we encourage you to use whatever your favorite kind is. But for us, it's the rub that we make here at the Barbecue Lab that we teach you how to make on our channel. So go check out that recipe video. You can make this rub too, but we're just gonna put a nice even coat on the outside to make sure that this is gonna create a lovely little crust while it's on the smoker. All right, so the meatloaf's on the grill and we're gonna leave it alone. We're not even gonna look at it or touch it for about 45 minutes. And the temperature that you're shooting for is right around 275 to 300 degrees. And we're gonna come back at about 45. We'll check on it and show you what it looks like. All right, we've had the meatloaf on the smoker here for right around an hour, and I wanna show you an update and let you know where we are from a temperature perspective. But our grill's been hovering between 275 and 300. And so I wanna show you what we're looking at here. Look at that color, that nice mahogany color on the outside. Stick the thermometer in. We're looking right around 139, and so we've got a little ways to go because we want to shoot for something a little higher than that. So we're gonna go ahead and leave this on. We've probably got another half hour or so. But look at all that juice that comes flowing out from putting that on there. We want to get this thing closed, make sure we keep that smoke inside, make sure we keep the heat inside. But so at the end of an hour, we're sitting right around 135, 140. Got a little ways to go on this. We'll check back in a minute. All right, we've had the meatloaf on for another 20 minutes. It's time to go ahead and check in, see what kind of internal temperature we're getting. And then it's probably time to go ahead and sauce the outside and let that sauce really glaze and set on the outside. Let's see what we're working with. Oh yeah, look at that. That juice is starting to run clear on top. And when that juice is running clear, it says we're actually getting ready to be able to sauce the outside of this. Go right back in where we were. Yep, that juice is running clear. This thing is ready to sauce. And this is the barbecue sauce that we can teach you how to make. If you're interested in learning how to make this one, we've got this recipe on our site, but we're just gonna paint on this barbecue sauce. And then we're just gonna let that caramelize here for a second. And once it's caramelized, we'll get it off the grill and let it rest. All right, so we've let the sauce tack up a little bit on the outside of the meatloaf, and we're gonna go ahead and take it off. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it rest for a good 10, 15 minutes before we even slice into this thing, because we're gonna let the juices resettle and redistribute throughout. But we're gonna go ahead and get it off the smoker and get it inside. So we've gotten the meatloaf off of the smoker, and now we've let it rest for about 10 to 15 minutes. And I've got to tell you, it smells so good in here. I cannot wait to dive into this. So when it comes to slicing a meatloaf, we like to use a nice little serrated knife. This is a Wusthof Grand Prix series. We really like this one. But we're going to use this to be able to get nice clean slices and get them displayed on this plate. So let's go ahead and dive in and see what we're working with. So we've got the meatloaf sliced here. I've got to tell you, there's so much juice running out of this thing. This thing is a really moist, juicy meatloaf, and it's time for me to try a bite. And I don't know about you, but I am excited about this. It tastes just like it always does here at the house. I love making this recipe. And look at this smoke ring. We've got a great smoke ring on the outside of this meatloaf, which is something you're not going to get in the oven. So this smoked meatloaf is something you've got to try at home. You can amaze your friends, wow your family, invite the neighbors over, show them that you're the pit master of the neighborhood. But this is an amazing, amazing recipe that I want you to try. Now, if you like this video and you found this helpful, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and click that little bell, be notified whenever we have a new video coming out. And our goal is to put out a new video at least once or twice a week to help you be a better backyard cook, be better at managing your pit fire, being able to manage the meat that you're putting on, season it with better rubs, make better barbecue sauces, and all of the things that come with outdoor cooking. That's the reason this channel exists, and we want to have you join us on it. So we're so glad that you joined us here, and I can't wait to see you next time on the BBQ Lab.